Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by my buddy Myron.
Hey, folks, back for another week of wrestling chatter. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's staying safe. And let's get into the wrestling business.
Hey, man, before we get started, I wanted to take it, we don't do this a lot to lead off of the show, but I do want to take a special moment to thank all of our Patreon members that we have that have been supporting the show and we've had some, believe it or not, for quite a while, man, that
Yes.
I really wanted to just give them a shout out to all of the guys over there who are following us at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. We try to get the show out every week for them early, and some other cool things. And like I said, we're working on some new merch, maybe some cups, hoodies, and some things like that for our Patreon members, as amongst other things. I mean, and you had talked to me about doing some little quick bit seminar kind of things and stuff. I think that's something we're going to try. So we always want to encourage you to check it out, especially the more people we have over there at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Even the more cool stuff we're going to start throwing on there. But we're committed to making a big attempt to actually start putting even more value there for our members there over patreon.com. So
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate all you've done. Your hard-earned money being given to us to get this content early and some content exclusive. Means a lot that you would share your income with us, especially in a time now of great uncertainty in the world.
Yeah, and we wanted to, we've been putting their names up on the closing credits of the screen, kind of give them a special shout out there. I don't even know if most people, if they're watching the video, know that, because a lot of our podcast our Patreon members are podcast listeners, so they may not even know they're getting a special shout out on the video itself over on YouTube and on Facebook, of course, weekly. But hey, man, let's jump into it here. Discuss a little wrestling. If you're missing out, by the way, 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff has become arguably the one podcast that I can't miss every week.
I listened to it when it first came out, and I went on my coronavirus hiatus where I don't listen to anything but old wrestling podcasts, like old 70s wrestling podcasts, because it cheers me up. But I always thought Bischoff's podcast was the best business podcast. Like, all the other podcasts could tell you about booking, all the other podcasts could tell you about what happened or commentating or Ric Flair's ding dong. But Bischoff could tell you exactly what the television stuff meant. And I was always impressed by his knowledge of the business that way.
And obviously, me being business oriented, that's kind of why it's always my go-to podcast. I've skipped podcasts, the others, and it's not that I don't enjoy them. It just, for me, his week in, week out, and he always says something. It never fails. Every week there's something he says that triggers a thought into my, and that's kind of what I try to do here on our podcast. Like, for example, a couple of weeks ago, we were going to discuss this last week, but we had such a jam-packed show that we pushed it off to this week. But he kind of made the comment about WWE, AEW, NXT, whatever. And we get it. The COVID era is a little bit different, but is it really? And what I mean by that is, he brought up about are they missing the boat on what live television even is supposed to be? And what I meant by that is, they advertise so much stuff in advance.
Yeah.
Now, like, next week, this, and this is going to happen. And kind of what I think his point was is, does advertising matches, segments, on and on and on, you think you're doing a good thing and you're drawing people's attention, like, oh, I got to watch that segment. He's like, but are you really? Because are you sacrificing anything can happen on live television? You think about that. Is that why sports is so, like, it's arguably sports is one of the most watched television products, period, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think everything else in life is so scripted, and everything from your television shows, there are no surprises in 2020, and that's the sad part. There aren't any surprises, and in sports, you do never know what's going to happen. You've always got that underdog team. You can pick the outcome of most games, but not all times. There's always that uncertainty, and that makes it exciting. That makes it exciting, and wrestling is getting I'm not going to talk about scripted promos because that's a whole nother subject. But when the show is scripted, and I know the show is supposed to run well and cut off at a certain time and hit your marks, and everybody goes out there and does their thing, but it's almost unorganic. That's why indie shows are so interesting to me.
Exactly. So my question, that the first thing we want to get into is, are they so concerned with the war here with AEW versus WWE that they're missing the boat, right? Are they just they're wasting the live thing because they're trying to say like, hey, watch us because of this, and hey, watch us next week because of that, instead of just getting into the nitty gritty of let things let things unfold. I mean,
Yes.
let's be honest with you. If your name's not Taker, Rock, Cena, Austin, Flair, maybe, I mean, like, we get it. The diehards love the fact that you put AJ Styles or Kenny Omega, maybe, who knows, Jericho. You put their names on there, but those people, are they already watching?
Jericho is the closest thing to a legend we have right now that's actively wrestling. But the people that are going to watch Jericho, he is that one character that might cross over one day, are already watching. And if you ask people, ask your casual, not even casual fan, just ask. We keep talking about our friend Billy. Ask Billy where Chris Jericho works right now. Could he tell us?
Probably not.
Okay. AJ Styles, phenomenal. Probably one of the best of all times. But he wrestles in an era where they're not as large as they used to be. They're not larger than life. Okay. The Rock is a movie star. Cena is transcended almost everything in sports entertainment. Those guys are super names and will bring people back. But you can put the best match on TV. But the people who like wrestling for the pops, which is most of your casual fans want to tune in to see the guy thrown off the cage, or they want to see the cheap pop out of the crowd, or they want to see an old legend come out and make everybody, yell and scream. They're not going to turn in for good matches. They're not going to tune in for good matches. If they tuned in for good matches, Ring of Honor would be the most popular television program in wrestling. New Japan would be the most viewed wrestling program in America. It's WWE for a reason. And it's not match quality. It's not telling people, tune in and you see this, this, this. It was the spectacle. And wrestling is losing its spectacle the more we book it.
Well, the thing that they're losing is live television is you never know what's going to happen.
Yes.
But if you're telling me every week what I'm going to see next week, I know exactly what's going to happen. So it's not must watch. And here, we're as guilty as anybody, right? I mean, there are weeks that we see stuff like if Raw went off the air in chaos, and that was kind of the Attitude Nitro era, is it would go off the air and you were just like, I got to see what happens next week.
Yes.
But if they told you everything that was going to happen next week, you could decide. And that's where we are. As much as we don't want to admit it, we see stuff now, especially, God forbid, if it's advertised in a week, the haters, as we like to say, the people that are the critics online, you have a whole week to shit on it and decide whether you want to watch it or not.
And that's my devil's advocate. This is my tough thing I have to admit to sometimes. And I'll do this, and I don't want to, but I saw the Bash card and the Fighter Fest card right next to each other. The Bash card did not have the second week show announced, except for one match. A big match that they built to the week before for the title with an elimination match. Logical type thing. You build to that. And then Fighter Fest had everything. Okay? There was no drama from week one that was going to build to week two. Okay? I knew what was going to be on week two, and nothing that happened on week one was going to affect that. And I got to looking at those matches, like, And I'm like, and I just told you, I was like, there's no damn reason for me to watch that. And I was shitting. Myself, the person who tries to be the most positive wrestling fan there is, was already shitting on stuff he'd seen. Because it was announced. But the unannounced card for the second week of the Bash was more exciting for me. Because it was drama. It made me feel like I wanted to watch that. Week one to find out what was going to happen on week two. But that's just me. That's the old school wrestling fan in me.
Right. Well, it's because we were saying is if you're going to have an announced match, well, we knew going into it that Keith Lee was wrestling Adam Cole
Yes,
because he had won a match that led to that card.
yes,
But everything else we were going to find out as the stories progressed.
yes.
Other than that, if things aren't happening, storylines setting up part two of a story that's going to be announced on it, then it should just be total live chaos. You never know who's going to walk out and challenge. One of my biggest pet peeves on is everybody. I love the open challenge, the TNT title, the title open
Yes.
challenge. The problem is what was the plus of John Cena when he had the open challenge? For the most part, he just said, "Come on out," and they played somebody's music and they came out. You never knew
Yes.
who he was going to wrestle.
Yes.
That's the route I wish we were going with
Mhm.
the TNT title on AEW. Dynamite is Cody they shouldn't announce. It's just going to be, it's a surprise. Who's going to
Exactly.
be, because they're hyping the whole, it could be from another promotion. It could be from the indies. It could be from anywhere. Well, then don't tell me who it's going to be.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love to be watching just to see the announce. Cody will defend his television title against a person to be named later or someone from the crowd or a surprise entrant. And then you wait and to see who walks out of the tunnel. And it feels organic and it feels exciting. And it's got to have to be exciting, folks, to draw eyes in 2020. We are calloused. We're calloused in the age of school shootings and bombings and everything else in the world. The horrible news cycle. If you're going to draw people's eyes to something like, just say like wrestling, which is predetermined, it has to be exciting again. And you can't get excitement when you tell me what's going to be on the card every
Well,
week.
it doesn't have to be, like I said, there are some weeks you could hype it up. It could be these two guys are going to wrestle, and then the winner of that match next week is who wrestles Cody for the title.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that doesn't be the norm, and like you shouldn't tell me ahead of time. It could be something as simple as one week it might be Matt Hardy just decides he wants a shot,
Yep.
walks out. The surprise that it's Matt Hardy. The next week it could be Ricky Starks from that has just left in WWE. The next week it be some guy that we don't know who's a super indie guy that he shows up. I mean, how cool would it be? I mean, just randomly. I mean, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's Logan Creed showing up to wrestle, or
Yes.
Brian Pillman Jr. shows up to wrestle Cody, unannounced."
Yes.
If Brian Pillman Jr. walked out on Dynamite and wrestled Cody for the TNT title, then I guarantee you, next week everybody would be like, "Holy crap! I got to watch to see who walks out next week."
Well, as much insider, I don't want to say insider, which just it sounds silly, but as much as we know about what's happening on local independents and who's going to be on shows and what's going to be happening, and people tip us off and give us hints what's going to happen. The independents, even if they announce the whole card, you still have that thing. You don't know what's going to happen. There's still some chance. You don't know who's going to come out behind that curtain that's tacked up on a wall somewhere. And that makes it exciting and makes it feel good. And just waiting to see the crowd. A lot of times I don't pop. I watch the other pop. I watch the audience go crazy. And it's surprise. And it's the run out. And if it's a run out, if it's a run in, and you play the person's music, how did you know they were going to run in? How did you have the music queued up for the person who's going to run in? No.
Listen, all wrestlers are chipped, and when they run through Gorilla, their music keys up. We've established that a long time ago. That's why their music plays. It has nothing to do with they knew they were going to be there. So if you enter a building and you're chipped, your music goes off. But my thing is, it's real simple. I mean, stop wasting being live. I get it. They're taping stuff right now, but WWE's taping stuff without fans, so it's not like the stuff's getting out unless wrestlers are tweeting out that
outside of that leak, they've had a pretty good run for not revealing stuff.
Right.
Of all the matches they've cut, including WrestleMania, SummerSlam's going to be cut the same way soon. But not a lot of leaks. You still could be live TV. You still could get the pop. But it's just too announced.
If you're gonna just waste what being live means, just go back to taping it and save yourself the headache and the money. And you can make every match look great because you can edit them and fix them and reshoot
Yeah.
them and all that kind of stuff. Um, that's the thing about being live is mistakes happen. This happens, but you never know what's going to happen. So go back and embrace that, or just go back to taping because you're just wasting what it is.
I like the
Especially what we say in our cynical world, where basically we just spend a week crapping on deciding whether we're going to watch it or not because we
yeah.
know what's going to happen.
Go ahead and feed the trolls. It's just like here trolls. Go say some shitty stuff about what you get, but man, I can sit down and I can watch some old Mid South, and I don't know everything that happened in Mid South, but it still surprises me because it just feels right. And wrestling has lost some of that feel for me, and I hope they can figure out how to get it back.
Yeah.
And I thought a lot of that get back was going to come with AEW, and it did for a while. But next topic.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're talking about losing, right? So when AEW announced they were going to be coming in, they were going to be the new, basically a super indie promotion, top level production. Lots of kind of cool things like that. They were going to tell some cool stories or whatever. As of late, look, we're not trying to pile on here. Look, AEW, the viewership, the ratings, whatever, we're not going to get hung up in that to the nth degree. The $1 million question that I've has is, in the recent times, have they lost their way? Like, have they lost sight of their vision that they were originally set out to be? And there's lots of little things along the way. And then there's some big things that I was wanting to ask. I mean, some of the little things is sometimes you need to just focus. And this is, again, something Bischoff openly says on the podcast. At one point, they took their eye off of the prize and started focusing their attention to what WWE was doing over here. And that can start being the problem.
Yeah. It's Burger King that worries what's on McDonald's menu. McDonald's does not worry what's on Burger King's menu. If you want to be number one, you have to look forward, not backwards. And that's
okay. But here's the thing. Chick-fil-A is not number one, but I guarantee you they don't pay attention whatsoever to what McDonald's is doing.
No. They're different. They do what they want to do. They do something completely different.
They're the best Chick-fil-A they can possibly be. Yes. And if you've watched over the years, you've watched them climb and climb and climb and climb the rankings as far as fast food places go. That's what that's what Dynamite needs to be doing. AEW needs to just focus on their product and quit things like, let's give some examples. Like my thing is they were going to be new, they were going to be innovative, they were going to be, an alternative, but they spend a ton of time chasing down old WCW trademarks. And I understand. And before I'm berated about this, like, I get it. A lot of that stuff was inventions, creations of Dusty's. Trust me, nobody how many times on this show have I said Dusty Rhodes is my favorite wrestler of all time? Some of the more contributions to wrestling than most, right?
Oh, I didn't even realize how much Dusty Rhodes had done for wrestling until I got to studying him and what he did in Florida. Jesus Christ. He made more people rich in Florida than anyone in wrestling.
Yeah.
I respect what he's done. And if I was a son of a man of Dusty's stature that loved his father the way Cody does, I would want to chase his stuff down too. I get it. But I wouldn't be doing it publicly. I would just be picking the stuff up. And I know people search for trademark stuff all the time. And there's somebody out there gonna look into something and drop the news, because that's what we do in 2020. But it doesn't always look like a forward-thinking company.
Well, it's if you're busy, because wasn't it recently that we were told too that it wasn't a war, it wasn't, but you're going to stroll out in the Great American Bash, parody shirt, that the Cody shirt. You're going to just taking shots, Taz taking shots on last week, or, on Dynamite. Just things like that. Being the Elite, taking shots at the leak, from the Great American Bash title match, the Keith Lee versus Adam Cole.
Lord. If they have Tony Schiavone reveal it on the air tonight, that's going to be way too copycat.
Yeah. I mean, my thing is I sure as hell wouldn't do it because it backfired on him last time, so I don't think they
Well,
will.
yeah, that's what basically was the end of the end for him, wasn't it?
It was the beginning. It's like all those people
Yeah,
flipped. Yeah.
that's
Um,
when the shit hit the fan.
it's just those kind of things. So like if you, and then even something as silly, like again, on my Mount Rushmore, right? Chris Jericho is even tweeting out about demos. Like, yeah, you may have had more viewers, but we won the key demo. Who gives a crap? More people watch their show because that was originally what anybody cared about. And you know, and the running joke of it is that people don't even realize is how many times have we argued about viewership and ratings?
Yeah.
I mean, does it matter? It's all going to boil down to, I mean, you can have the most viewers, but I'd love to see the merch numbers of AEW versus NXT. Like who's selling the most, you know, and then I get it. They're probably right. I mean, the Bucks sell a ton of merch. You know, the
Yeah.
Jericho sells a ton of merch. Cody's probably selling a ton of merch.
And they sell, I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's a superior product. The stuff coming out of Pro Wrestling Tees that their stores are based out of is a much superior product than the stuff that WWE sells. And it's less expensive on the whole, better quality.
But you can't ever get clearance stuff from Pro. You can't get clearance stuff from Pro Wrestling Tees for $5.
No. I don't buy the stuff at the. I've bought one full price WWE T-shirt in the last 5 years. That was the Becky Lynch shirt, right, because there was nothing hotter at the time. Everything else, $5 clearance,
and that's because of the push, right? She's over. I tell you, the people that we were told that, you know, when they brought in, think about those initial wave of guys that were brought in. This goes back to are they losing their way? Guys like Santino and Ortiz, remember they were either going to be, should they take an AEW deal or should they go to NXT or whatever?
Yeah.
Where are they now? I mean, I get it, they're in the inner circle, but hell, they're talking about busting up the inner circle already. They haven't been even a group for a year. This group has tons of legs. Now, other than the fact that, let's go honest with you, some could argue that Jake Hager is a bust.
Massive. But they should have known that from what he did in the WWE. And look at it, folks. If you're a dead, not personality guy, you're probably not going to be propped up on a super indie show. I mean, look at Luke Brody, whatever his name is, Harper Lee. Am I working into something here?
Brody Lee is what you're going with.
Yeah. Did he write To Kill a Mockingbird?
Something like that.
That was somebody else. Okay. But the thing was, he wasn't exciting. He wasn't interesting at WWE on a big stage with the best wrestling writers in the world. Is he exciting on AEW? Does he draw you, Nick? Does he do anything that makes you want to tune in?
And that's the crazy thing. And we've heard things of like, you know, Jericho brought out that Skrull should have been, you know, that he was one of the original ideas to lead the Dark Order. Of course he was.
Why did you do that? Why did you say that? Why is Jericho talking about ratings? Why is Jericho saying what could have been? Kayfabe. Stone Cold Steve Austin never questioned anything and broke down demographics on television.
Well, he's doing it on Twitter, so that's a different story. But I mean, my point being is when I was bringing up Santana and Ortiz, but we're also talking about guys like Butcher and Blade, Private Party, Jurassic Express. All these tag teams were brought in, and they were going to be giving opportunity. Yet your tag belts are on two singles guys. They're on Page and Omega.
Two clustered singles guys that are different, that you were going to make Page your guy. Page was going to be your guy, and it didn't go over. Omega and Page should be after either one or two belts, the top belt or Cody's belt. They should always be feuding for that. They shouldn't be tag team champions unless you were trying to elevate your tag team division, which would have been better building it. I like Butcher and Blade a whole lot. The big guy looks like somebody from my wrestling childhood. I like those guys. They're believable. Private Party is an upcoming group. They're going to get it. The Matt Hardy thing is going to help them. But they're guys they're building. You're building your product. You can't take the focus off building your product and bring the Revival in. Unless the Revival is going to be used to build the rest of it. Now, if the Revival are in there helping these guys behind the stage, backstage, getting these guys better, showing them stuff, telling them what to do, yes, but if you just bring them in and put them on top, you haven't accomplished anything. You've just got more WWE guys in high places.
Well, you brought in Matt Hardy, you brought in Hager, you've had Jericho, you got Moxley, Cody, Dustin, the Revival, you got Brody Lee, Luke Harper, so on and so forth, right? You keep bringing in these guys, and it's like I said, it's pushing down the guys. I mean, take a guy like Joey Janela, right? We thought that, and I know what your personal thoughts are, as far as Joey Janela's character. So let's take that out of the equation.
Yeah, I don't even know the guy, but I'm not a fan of his wrestling work.
Right. That's something you're not a fan, which totally is fine. But because luckily this doesn't matter. Like the opinion of what you think about his character and his whatever doesn't matter.
But he's one of their guys.
He was brought in, and he was going to be kind of like, remember, it was going to be a buffet. You were going to have everything. Yeah. He was going to be your out there guy. Like he was going to be in that Orange Cassidy.
Yes.
And people are laugh that I put those two together. But the character wise, they're kind of the gimmick characters.
Yeah.
Where's he been? Like Janela's just kind of,
it's
gone.
Like a Pizza Hut buffet, and that stuff, that's the pasta that's not even warm. He's in that bin.
Yeah.
All the hot lights and pans are Cody and the pizza down here, and somewhere you get towards Kenny Omega and Paige. Maybe they're like the marinara sauce. And then you get that cold thing of spaghetti looking stuff. And that's where your Janela guy is. He was one of the guys you thought were going to be a core. One of the guys they announced. Remember when they announced these people?
It was a big deal. He was coming.
Okay.
And a character like his has to be like cultivated and groomed.
Yes,
and
not going to get over based on skill.
Well,
okay?
But he's so personality and so character driven, and yet now we've learned that basically his next phase is to be fed to Archer, for Archer to recover from from being fed to Cody, kind of thing. And that's just like, I mean, come on, man. I mean, so the guys that they originally led us to believe were going to give all the opportunities, they should probably be the most disappointed. When I talk about your Janelas, your Private Parties, your Jurassic Express, your Butcher and your Blade,
It's because they didn't think, because they were winning with those guys. They were winning the ratings war week after week with the guys that they brought in and started with. But as they've brought in more and more WWE talent and became more WCW, they became more TNA.
I would argue, even though they had those people, I think you could start to kind of foresee. Bischoff has a saying that he says a lot, where it's you're either less, you're more, or you're different than your competition.
Yeah,
you're never gonna be better at WWE than WWE. I don't care what anybody says. You can hate WWE all you want. You're not going to out WWE.
Yeah, you're never going to be better than Kleenex.
So you don't want to be less. You don't want to be inferior.
Yeah.
So you got to be different. And the more promotions, have you noticed, the more promotions slide towards that WWE style, they fall.
Well, because you're not an alternative anymore.
Correct.
When you're not an alternative to the WWE, there's no reason to watch you anymore. You just watch WWE.
And I could be totally wrong here. Agree or disagree. And this is going to be one of those you can share at Tapped Out Pod on social media. Comment as I make this, on the Facebook feed as I say this. There's essentially 3 type of viewers when you're watching television. There's a fan of your product. There's somebody that's not a fan of your product, or somebody that you're hoping to make a fan of your product.
Yes.
That doesn't know you from Adam.
Yes.
So if they're going to watch you, if they want something different than WWE, right?
Yes.
So they're going to watch.
Yes.
If they're a fan of the WWE and they're not a fan of yours, they're going to watch it and they're going to turn.
Yes.
And then there's going to be the people that you hope. The problem is when they watch it, if you're too similar. How many times have you watched a show? Let's go this route. Have you watched a show that you're a big fan of? Something else comes out that's similar to it, and you're like, well, it's kind of like this, it's just not as good. So what do? You stop watching. Did we go through the honeymoon period with AEW where people were trying it out, giving it a thing?
Yeah.
They were an alternative, and then the more they slid to this, looking like a WWE, people were like, well, if I wanted to watch WWE, I'll just watch WWE.
Yeah, and I think NXT did exactly the opposite. They were very WWE when they launched on major television. And now they're more NXT to me than they were.
I beg to differ. I don't know that they ever changed who they were. At the core, they've never changed who they have stayed the course and stayed who they are, probably closer than anybody. I mean, did they, all fairness, I know some people are going to, well, they brought down main roster talent, but okay, sure they did. I agree. But at the core, they do what they do best. Some of the most over people they have there right now, Karrion Kross as a character presented. I guarantee you, Triple H is behind him, and Karrion Kross A is pushing himself. I mean, let's be honest, he takes care of his character better than pretty much anybody. But at the core, NXT is who it is, and they have not wavered, and that's why their ratings don't. Remember when we did the numbers weeks ago?
Yeah,
they don't
they're
do
stable.
They're pretty stable across the board. I mean, they have weeks where things are wacky, but for the most part, they're the least affected by COVID.
Well, yes, and the thing I like about it is I always know that when I tune in, I'm going to get a solid wrestling product. I don't always know, and a lot of the guys, I don't even know a lot of the guys, like that Timothy Thatcher guy that did that match with Oni Lorcan. I don't know if you saw that.
Hell of a match.
Phenomenal wrestling match.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about Timothy Thatcher, or I heard of Oni Lorcan,
Yeah.
but I watched him put on a phenomenal match, and I'm like,
not to interrupt you, but because I want you to say it because you're what you're talking about. Bash, the Great American Bash, was a buffet.
Yes.
They had a great wrestling match. They had some sports entertainment.
Yes.
They had some really good women's stuff. I mean, think about it. They had everything you want in a show right on the spot.
And it was presented like an event.
Yeah.
No commercials during the main event because our sponsor will do blah, blah. Was it Mountain Dew, I think?
Yeah.
And you got something that felt good. Fyter Fest to me, if we're going to go back to talk about our previous topics more, Fyter Fest to me looked like another AEW show. Nothing against that, but Bash felt
big.
Freaking Bash felt big.
It felt like a takeover again.
Yeah, it felt like a takeover on TV, and those are your critically acclaimed products or your takeovers. And if you're going to give something away for free, I guess the intent was to draw eyes to your product in the future. I think the Bash did a better job.
I mean, so I guess at the core, what we're asking is, again, hey, Facebook feed comments, we appreciate them. At TapTapPod on social medias, and of course, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Has AEW lost their way? Have they lost their vision of their initial, what they were wanting to be? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's literally, the question is,
it's just a different product.
Yeah. Are they different now than who they thought they were going to be when they started? And if you think they did, was it justifiable to make that move? I guess that's the $1 million question. But hey, at the core, we're all fans, right?
I love the stuff. I love all of this. I bet you about stuff sometimes, but I love all the stuff I'm saying. I love what wrestling is doing. I love the fact there's another night on TV that draws 1.5 million people to watch wrestling.
Yeah. Well, that's debatable, right? I mean, we always get it. Is there really that many people watching? But again, I always talk about it, right? It's because again, it makes you think. If you're not listening to 83 Weeks, man, you should. Because this week this past episode on 83 Weeks, he made a comment about a match, and I'm going to show a clip right here. This was leading up to the match. They covered TNA Victory Road 2010, and they discussed the Ric Flair Jay Lethal match that happened on that. And so, Bischoff made a comment that just really made me think. He went into the depths of, as he watched the pay-per-view for research for the show, Jay Lethal and Ric Flair have a match. Going into it, leading up to it, the promos, go into your YouTube machine, you just search it. Jay Lethal, Ric Flair promo. Going into this show was some of the best stuff, period. So this is not what we're discussing here. But the point was, as Bischoff watched that match, he said he had to watch it twice. Because the first time he couldn't dissect it. He couldn't break it down. He literally caught himself getting so emotionally involved and sucked into the match.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was a fan again. And he asked the question, if watching that match, you couldn't get sucked in and you couldn't, if you had to break down everything and we're all subject to this, you got to be careful, right? So one of the things that you do is, if you can't just get caught up in the moment in wrestling anymore, are you really a fan anymore? If you can't watch something without breaking it down and dissecting it and crapping on it or whatever, Are you still a wrestling fan?
Why watch it? Unless you're Dave Meltzer, why watch it? Because you're not going to get the kind of press he gets for your breakdown. You can post your stuff on Twitter, but nobody's going to give a shit if you're not Dave Meltzer.
But here's the one thing: is Dave Meltzer a fan anymore? He says
No.
he is, but is he really?
Dave Meltzer is a cult of personality wrapped in the Young Bucks. That's just my take on the whole thing. Nothing against him, but that's what he's done. He's hooked into them now to stay relevant. I hate to criticize anybody though, but I'm at an age, and it's the Mark Maron has a funny comedy bit. I don't know how much time I have left, and I'm not going to die tomorrow, but I'm not going to spend my time watching something that I don't want to watch. Think about it. If I'm going to watch something and it's not going to bring me pleasure, if I'm not going to enjoy it, if I have to tear it to pieces, I'm just not going to tune in. Have I had that feeling about Raw lately? Yes, I have. If I watch Raw, it's typical of fast forward because I'm not going to get in here and sit down and watch something I don't like or don't enjoy currently, because that's torture. That's what they do to people.
But here's the thing, though, Myron. Even though going into something that you're like, oh, I don't. Have you ever thought about watching? Because I do. This is what I catch myself doing. If my brain is so stuck on like, I've got to watch Raw for the show. Most of the time, I end up doing it fast forward. What I really enjoy is the nights that I'm like, I just feel like watching Raw or Dynamite or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't have a pen. I don't have a paper. I don't, I'm learning that what's best to do is not try to take a single note during any wrestling that I watch, and that it's best to prep for this podcast by listening to podcasts, reading some of the, the opinion pieces, for crying out loud. I don't even look at the news stuff hardly anymore, like, because it puts the brain in the wrong train of thought that I want to be a fan. That's all I want to be when I'm watching it.
This goes to why I respect Larry Goodman so much. Larry Goodman, the man behind Georgia wrestling history, the reports, the father of wrestling news in Georgia, can still be the biggest fan in the world and go to a show and have to write a report on it. And he writes the best reports there are. And he can break down every bit of the action and tell you about it and critique stuff, but he still enjoys it. He is the ultimate wrestling fan, in my opinion. He does this for free. I can't enjoy something when I have to break it down to the level he does. But then again, like I said, I'm not going to do something I don't enjoy. If I quit enjoying this podcast, I'm not going to continue doing it. Even when it gets dark and it's hard to do during COVID when they're jack shit for wrestling news, I still enjoy doing this. When we sit down here and hit record, this is still one of the highlights of my week every week. And I'm not going to force myself to watch a wrestling show if I don't want to watch it, because then it's not going to be fun.
And I tell you who, by the way, because I wanted to, you talked about the moment on Raw. This week on Raw, they hit a home run, and everybody's like, oh, it wasn't a match. This goes back to other things we've talked about. When Heath Slater had his return to, and let's be blunt, his farewell on Raw, everybody immediately was like, well, they used him at the last minute, and they, blah, blah. I mean, it was the epitome of my point here. They gave him an opportunity essentially to say goodbye, whether it was out of, some kind of kindness of their heart or whatever. Who gives a shit?
Yes.
I'm like, did they use him on the last couple of days of his contract because they had an idea? Well, I'll tell you what they did is they captured gold, in my opinion. They captured wrestling, and what do we always say? Wrestling is about moments, creating moments that you remember. Even if it by accident, they created a moment on Monday with Heath Slater to the Drew McIntyre segment. You genuinely caught Heath Slater delivering his promo with water in his eyes, because he probably knew this was his goodbye. But he got to have a genuine moment to tell his friend, it was a work in the beginning, but then at the end, you got the hug, you got the 3MB, the signal, you got him raising his hand and saying goodbye. And again, I caught myself at that moment going, holy shit, that was a moment. That was, I'm a fan. I gave myself goosebumps thinking about it just now.
And now I want to go back and watch it.
It
I didn't watch the show, but I want to go back and watch that moment because that's what makes it special.
Right. And guess what I didn't do? I didn't break that segment down at all. I'm like, it just freaking was cool.
Yes.
That's my breakdown of that segment. It's cool.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, speaking of cool, man, we had another topic that was in the news this week, and of course, it involves Sasha and Bayley. And you ask, why are we talking about Sasha and Bayley this week? Well, they're the tag team champions. Bayley's the SmackDown champion. Some people would argue that Sasha's about to be the Raw champion. But Booker T and Sasha had some back and forth. And it was funny because a lot of people are blowing it up like it's a big news story. And of course, my joke is, realize when you're being worked, people. He made a comment that, which is by the way, his statement was accurate about how good of the work those two are doing. Bayley's not great at one thing, but she's good at everything.
She's kind of like a Ric Flair.
And well, he's great at a lot of things. I mean,
Yeah, but the thing was, Ric Flair was never the best at any one thing, but he was great at everything. I don't know.
You could argue he was the best promo guy during his run. He was.
There were guys I think could probably do better. Dusty Rhodes, in my opinion, was the greatest promo guy of all time.
Could be. Not disagreeing with you.
You disagree with me?
No, I think I'm not disagreeing because he's my favorite wrestler of all time. So yeah. I wouldn't.
So you get a situation where but you still got Flair up there. If Flair's in the top 3, top 5 of every single category when it comes to wrestling, and Bayley might be in the top 7, top 8 in every category, but she's the best all around they have now. She is the current Cena, in my opinion.
I mean, I would argue Charlotte's the best they have at everything across the board.
Right now, though.
But yeah, currently that's still there. I can see where people say. But what I love about Bayley is, like you said, we joked about it. Was it last week? Could she be the most underrated wrestler that they have right now? Because she's on this record run, with her reign. She's doing really good stuff. I think when we first transitioned from Hugger Bayley to Karen Bayley, people were really pushing back on it. Yeah. But I think she's found her groove in it. I think she's embracing it, and I think she's on a pretty good run with it.
Sasha helps with that.
Absolutely,
great character foil. It's a thing where when people are talking about you, and I mean, they were on all 3 shows last week, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but besides that, that's 7 hours they were on the TV programs.
And they were on Raw again. So, I mean, they literally 4 weeks. Yeah.
The rest of the week, and people are talking about you when you're not on TV, that's when it's working. Booker T says something. Sasha makes a remark back. That spins. It gets posted on every single wrestling news site. You put a commercial up for your stuff you're doing on television. You're wanting people to watch because you've done something that people are talking about, and now they're going to want to watch your program, and you're doing multimedia marketing and advertising for yourself, for your program. It's brilliant. Even if you're getting worked, you can work stuff on social media and win when you're not on television. You don't have to be just confined to your programs or your shows.
Well,
you can be bigger than that.
At the core of it, I mean, her saying they're better than Harlem Heat as a tag team. She doesn't think they're better than Harlem Heat, I don't think, at the core.
But everybody reported it.
Everybody talked about it because she said it, because guess what? Sasha's character would say that.
Yes.
Now, right now, I think they're leaning heavily. They're heavily on those two women because they can move them across the board with the tag titles. So my thing is, hey, look, Sasha has always been, and I've argued this, I think she's always been the one right there behind Charlotte. When it comes to being as far as the women. It's not a popular opinion. I think she's better than Becky. I think Becky got hot at the right time, but as overall longevity, I think Sasha is going to be the better of the two. I think Charlotte's the best, and I think of the 4 horsewomen, It's Charlotte, and brace yourself. I'll tell you, it's Charlotte, it's Sasha, it's Bayley, and it's going to be Becky. I think in the long term, now it's the running joke of Austin was hotter for a shorter period of time. Hogan was better, longer. I think that's why my order goes that way.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. But those two together can be special, and I think for the long run.
If the only critique I have about any of those people involved is, you've heard stuff about Sasha pitching a fit after WrestleMania when they had to drop the tag team title. Blah blah blah. These people work for the company, and they're organic. They were indie talents that were put into the company system and worked and molded through NXT. These are NXT graduates. These are people who came up through back when it was the little leagues and the AAA ball, and they got on the roster. They do business. They do what they're told. They're getting rich. They're all over television by working along with these people.
Yeah. So if you look again, you can disagree with my thoughts on how great these two are. But just let us know. Wait, at tappedoutpod, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Or, of course, as we always say, just comment right below in the Facebook comments. I love interacting with those, by the way, with the people that watch live. I try to follow it as much as I can. There's sometimes we're at dinner when that show airs. I try to comment as much as possible. But we always appreciate all the people who are following us on Facebook and watching the show live. It's awesome. But hey, before we run out of time here, man, let's jump into the Georgia Indie Talk. It's a rocky week in Georgia Indie Talk with everything going on here in the state of Georgia. But some news nonetheless. Obviously, we broke the news like we were talking about last week. Southern Honor announced the Rumble Jack returns. End of August. We hope this card happens. Let's be blunt. This is where we are in wrestling. I'm really enjoying stuff. I mean, we're excited about the card, everything heading into on the show. Gary and Dylan always do a phenomenal job putting shows together. There's nothing new there. I love Hold My Beer Hansen campaigning to get into the Rumble Jack. Stay relevant, brother. That's what we're saying. Like, it's to keep hot while it's quiet.
That guy, I'm going to tell you, everybody else is sitting on their hands and waiting for wrestling to come back. And he is lobbying to be part of all of it. He's lobbying to get on what will be probably the first big show. He's lobbying to get into North Georgia from where he is in Valdosta and get his name out there. Going to get on a show report. I mean, he's been on a show report from PCW that they didn't turn in themselves. But when Larry and Rob Rod are out there at your shows and writing the reviews and writing about you, it's a big deal. Oh, yeah. Your name's getting to get out there, and he understands that. Saying that Bayley, Sasha. Sorry, I had a seizure. Maybe a mild stroke. Bayley and Sasha are doing where they're making themselves relevant outside TV. Hansen is understanding that, and he has worked social media. The videos are amazing. Okay, he's got it figured out. If you're in a business, which this is show business, okay, you have to have something to show. If we only put our product out once every couple of months, people wouldn't ever watch or listen because they'd forget about us. He keeps himself out there. He continues to generate buzz, even if it's bad buzz, Yeah.
And he's got a cool show. He's got a cool new show he just launched out, Hanging with Hansen on YouTube. Definitely check it out. He's doing his best to hang in there, man. But promotion's struggling to hang in there, man. I know Peach State announced this week that they're kind of in a holding pattern until, things change. Action, I was talking to Matt Griffin the other day. He's trying to get another show put together, hopefully here. I know they lost the one that we were hoping to go to on the 18th. Southern Violence, they're running another outdoor show. They've already run one July 11th at the Southern Brewing Company. They're going to keep running, I guess, outside. Lots of stuff. The promotions, it's just tough, man. We're going to I want to ask the fans here. I mean, I get it. We have friends who are running shows. I mean, right? Obviously, Southern Honor, we're cool, whatever. My question is, man, is just should anybody be running right now? If you were promoting and you were running, would you run? Because you can't from day to day. You don't know whether the show's going to have to be canceled, rescheduled, or whatever.
The pre-show folks, y'all missed out on some real kayfabe stuff. School, we're debating on whether schools are going to start. We're debating on high school sports. We're debating on college sports, trying to figure out what's going to happen. It's a very uncertain world. It's 12:30. We're recording this on Wednesday. I have a COVID test appointment at 2:15, just to be safe. Okay, I'm scared as hell. I don't know if I've been exposed. Your loyal wrestling correspondent is worried about his safety right now. And that's sad. It's an uncertain time. I mean, there are people that don't know if they're going to have jobs tomorrow. Their business might just fold altogether. You never know what's going to happen in this world of the COVID world, if we're going to, just call it that.
Yeah.
And wrestling is a volatile business on a good day, and especially indie wrestling. And I hope that I'm going to be able to go to these shows, and I hope these shows happen, and I hope people go and don't get sick. But I'm nervous.
It's everybody should be nervous, and that's the problem. Like, that's why I said if we're nervous or you're nervous or our fans nervous about going, is it worth running the shows? Is it worth we'll have to see.
I mentioned it to my girlfriend that I was going to go to a show on the state. She goes, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. But it's not just me I have to think about.
Right.
I have a family at home. I have not seen my mother in 5 months. She lives just in Atlanta because she's elderly.
We haven't physically.
I haven't seen you in months.
Yeah. We see each other every week, which is hysterical.
Every week we do this.
But in person, we have not seen each other in months, which is ridiculous. I have a toy up. I have a Funko Pop that I've been trying to give you for months.
I got stuff I got to give you too. And it's, guys, I'm scared. And I work with the public. So, I'm hands-on with people every day I work. And I'm scared. And I think a lot of people are too. But people want their wrestling. And I want my wrestling. And I really want it to come back. But I think everybody's nervous.
Yeah, hopefully, we'll be back soon enough. But I tell you, there was one other thing in the indie notes I really wanted to cover this week because it was a huge, huge deal for me personally. Friend of the show, and he actually, it was funny. Other than Gary Lamb, he may be the most interviewed guy in our podcast history, which is O'Shea Edwards.
I love him. I miss him so much, but I know he's doing great things up north.
Congrats on the new home. Yeah, we're up there. I'm glad he's doing really well up there. But in the wrestling world, he also got highlighted in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And I don't like to do this often, and it's easy for me to do, right? It's 2 years ago on our year-end awards. We've said guys on the indie scene that we think you really need to watch out for. He was my pick. Like, I thought that he was going to be. Keep proving me right, man. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, congrats on O'Shea for getting in the PWI, highlighted in there, because that's a huge feat for me. And I can't be happy for the guy because he's one of the nicest guys. Even though he's a beast in the ring.
Wonderful to us. Always been wonderful to us.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Well, we wanted to bring back the 3 on Tap this week. Wanted to be something a little different. And it just, this week we batted back and forth about what could we discuss. Obviously, with the U.S. title being remade on Raw, unveiled this new belt. By the way, I do like the belt. I mean, I know people don't, and you're one of them, but there's nothing wrong with it.
But I mean, it's. I have the right to dislike something without.
It pays homage to one of the old U.S. titles. It had the eagle on it and everything. So I got it. When you see them side by side, you're like, okay, I see what they were doing. But whatever. So we wanted to go back and pick like 3 of the titles that we thought were kind of the coolest belts for us. Again, guys, our opinion. Share your opinions at tappedoutpod, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Of course, in the Facebook comments below. What are your 3? And when we talk about, like, we're not talking about importance. We're talking about the way they look. Physically, the way they look. So we're going to go.
They were all ancient belts, and there was one 3B that we'll talk about later that we really wanted to squeeze in there but couldn't.
Well, go ahead and give it to it. Let's. What was your 3B?
It was the Intercontinental title from our childhood in the 80s where it changed the belt. It was white. Warrior changed it. It was different. It moved around. The plates were the same. It was just kind of special to me. I loved the Intercontinental title when I was a kid for some reason.
Well, it was the workers' title, so a lot of people, that's kind of why they went that route. So, but let's jump to number 3. And again, you're right. A lot of these seem to be our history, right? Yeah. So we like the old winged eagle belt. That just was something that it goes back to our childhood. And it just stood out that we, for some reason, love that belt. I think it's got to be nostalgia, right?
It's nostalgia. That's the belt that was used when I started watching the WWE. That's the belt that imprinted on me that was the world heavyweight belt, because that was the one that was on television the most. So I love that belt.
Oh yeah. This arguably could be my favorite, the next number 2. But
beautiful.
I always loved the NWA television title. I love the red strap. And it's probably because we saw it, kind of what you said. It was on TV every week, you know, during the NWA, the Crockett era. I mean, it's always synonymous to me with Arn, Tully, Dusty. That's kind of the group that always held that belt for me.
Yeah, it's special. It's a beautiful belt. It's the red strap. It's the red on it. It's not the gold and the black or the brown. It's a beautiful standout belt that, even though it wasn't the number 1 belt, it felt very important.
Oh, absolutely. It was, to me, it was the Intercontinental belt of, not the U.S. title, but the Intercontinental belt of the NWA was this title, because the workers had this belt, it felt like.
Yes.
Move along, number 1. I guess this one's kind of a no-brainer. You essentially have to jump to the big gold, right? Big gold has to be number 1.
The big gold was special because the big gold traveled with the champion around the territories. This is the belt that Flair defended when he moved around. This is the belt that you didn't see as much, and maybe that made it more special.
You could argue with your comments that the Dome Globe, the NWA title, you know, you could argue that, but from a cosmetic look, I like this belt better.
Yeah,
and I think that's why it gets the nod at number 1, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But you know, it's fair. I mean, so you know, number 3 we had the Winged Eagle. Number 2 we had the NWA TV title, the red one, and then of course number 1 we had the big gold. Share your thoughts on what your 3 were. Again, not importance-wise, you know, cosmetic. By the way, there's a sleeper one that people that don't ever think about that I always hold in there. That old giant AWA World Heavyweight title.
Yeah.
I always just kind of thought it was cool looking, even though it probably wasn't the prettiest or whatever. It was just big at the time. It was the biggest title.
The one that they use now is the NXT. Was it the NXT American title, or the one Keith Lee has currently? That's not a round. It's the big brownish strap.
They have a big brown strap. Yeah, the North American.
Like
wow. Yeah.
I'm not a belt collector. I will not allow myself to collect belts.
Too expensive of a habit to get into, man. Absolutely.
I will look at pictures of them, though.
Absolutely agree.
A T-shirt with on it.
If you don't follow, by the way, Reggie Harp is a good follow on Twitter. Jay-Z Flair, of course, is a big belt guy as well. So definitely check. Those are 2 Twitter accounts, and of course, Belt Fan Dan, Dave Milliken. A lot of those guys have some cool stuff on Twitter. But
we see Reggie Harp every time we go to any gathering. We don't know he's coming. We just run into him
because he's at all those gatherings.
Doesn't matter what state we're in. Doesn't know when it is. Doesn't matter. You turn around, there's him. Nice guy. Always friendly. And he's just, oh, wow, hey.
Yep. So, speaking of which, we don't want to end on a sour note, but we're going to, unfortunately. Two sour notes. One, totally looks like we're going to run way over. So Danny Jordan will not be on this week. Unfortunately, you know, hopefully maybe next week we'll get her on. I can see we're going to run over our hour anyway. But the really, really sad news, of course, this week is WrestleCade has announced they're canceling the event. Yeah. Totally understand why. Totally makes sense. We don't begrudge that decision. We just hate that decision because it's it's our Thanksgiving, Christmas trip. The
We're old
podcast.
dads. We're old cranky old dads that work retail the majority of their lives. We don't like the decorations or the music. We don't get good presents anymore. But we go to WrestleCade and we're special again. And we're wrestling fans and we're among our people. And it's, I bought ODB a beer last year just for the hell of buying her a beer. So I could say I bought ODB a beer.
We shared beer with Blue Meanie. We had pizza with Brian Pillman Jr. in the lobby. Those kind of stories are just wacky across the board. I mean,
we met the world's biggest wrestling fan. Okay, you can't do that kind of stuff. And I had a week's vacation off of that. I'm already booked for that. I'm gonna have to take now and spend with. No, I'm not gonna say spend with my family, but
I've debated we may go to Vegas or something. That's a whole other conversation we'll have off air. I told Rachel, like, hey, we were already booked for a vacation, so I think we're gonna go to Vegas or something. So
okay,
yeah. So, but again, hey, hopefully we're looking forward to 2021. Obviously we'll be there. If WrestleCade's running, we're there.
Yeah.
So kudos to those guys, to Tracy and those guys up there that do all the work. So
it's the right decision.
Absolutely.
Decisions, but it's the right decision.
Yep. So, guys, we appreciate the support every week, week in, week out. Make sure you're subscribing to all of anywhere you listen to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Subscribe, 5-star rating and review. Greatly appreciate any of those. They help more than you actually probably know.
Yes. Algorithms.
Absolutely. The YouTube channel's there if that's your thing, but we always say, hey, catch us the podcast drops 6 a.m. every Thursday morning. Thursday at 6:30 p.m. The video version drops on Facebook and on YouTube as well. But of course, if you're a Patreon member at patreon.com/tappedoutpod, we always say as soon as we get this thing recorded, we get it uploaded as fast as possible and you guys get it early. Most of the time it's Tuesday. Occasionally it's a Wednesday, like today. We get it dumped up for those guys so they can get it a little bit early. But we always appreciate your support. And of course, prowrestlingtees.com/tappedoutvwrestlingpodcast. Go grab you a shirt, man. Support the show. I'm actually uploading this format here in the next week or so. It should be available, hopefully. So that's my goal. And then, of course, keep your eye out for all the other stuff coming along. And we appreciate it, man. Well, Myron, that's all I got. You got anything else?
Well, I'm going to try to get over these sniffles before next time. And somebody tell Mooney to check his sugar again. But that's all I got for today.
Well, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.